Good evening, everybody. My name is Stephanie Wells. I work at MEFA, and I've been at MEFA almost a little over 20 years as of March 2021. So thank you for joining us tonight for our webinar to go over a small topic on our college cost calculator. So I'm going to demonstrate that tool for you tonight. Tonight is one of our mini webinars that focuses on just a small slice of what could be a bigger pie of after the college acceptance. Before I get started, I do want to point out MEFA's website here. So you can see I'm on mefa.org/collegebound. So that is a landing page that we created for everyone who has high school seniors about to go off to college to basically put all the tools you need in one spot. So I'm going to go over that in a minute. But I also just wanted to point out our events tab here on mefa.org that has all of our recorded webinars. So we do have events coming up as well as recorded webinars on after the college acceptance that are a little bit longer than tonight. Those are more closer to an hour, as well as recorded webinars on appeals and things of that nature. So tonight I'm really just going to focus on the college cost calculator and not get into too much beyond that, because we have a short mini webinar tonight, but we do have lots of other webinars coming up that will cover a lot more detail. So let's get started. So again, this is our landing page for after the college acceptance to walk you through what you need and all the tools that we have to offer. So you can see I mentioned a recorded webinar of after the college acceptance. This is our 1 hour long webinar. So you can take a look at that. And we also have some live webinars coming up as well. And if I scroll down here, you can see that we have just some basic educational information, articles, blogs for you to read. But we also have some tools here, such as our student loan payment calculator, which I'm not going to go through tonight. I'm going to focus on our college cost calculator. But I do want to let you know all of the great offerings that are on this website here. Our podcast is great to listen to. And you can also request an appointment, a one-on-one appointment here. So you can see at the bottom of the form of the web page, the online form, if you wanted to schedule a one-on-one with myself or any of our MEFA counselors here, and we can go over your financial aid award offers with you, help you understand them, and go in a little bit more depth about your specific situation. So a couple of logistics. We are recording tonight's webinar, so I will send the recording to everybody who registered for our mini webinar tonight. And if you have any questions, feel free to type those in the Q&A, and I will stop and answer those at the end. I'm going to go through the calculator, go through all the tools here, and then we'll go through some Q&A, and then you'll be done in time for dinner. So let's get started. So again, I'm at mefa.org/collegebound, your landing page for everything you need to get your ducks in a row to pay the college bill. And we're going to focus tonight on our college cost calculator. So I'm going to open that up. Scroll down. Everybody should be able to see this pretty well. So this calculator we created to help families put their award letters from financial aid offices side by side, so that you're just looking at the black and white numbers. You know, you're probably getting a lot of mail, booklets, websites that you need to go to, college portals that you might need to log into at all the schools your students were accepted to. And it can be a little overwhelming to look at all that and try and, put it together on the table and line them up side by side. So this calculator allows you to take that information and plug in just the data that you need to really do a true comparison. So I am going to make some numbers up here and just show you how the tool works, and I'll go through each line item and give you some tips as I go. So I'm going to put in here college A and college B. Very creative names for my colleges here. So college A, we're going to pretend this is a private school, and college B, we'll pretend that that is a public school here in Massachusetts. So again, for those of you who are just joining us, we are recording tonight, and put your questions in the Q&A and we will answer those as we go. So the first thing you'll want to put in here, and you can create a spreadsheet with these line items as well if you have more than 4 colleges that you want to compare. You can save this into a PDF as well. But the first thing you'll want to find out is the cost just for 1 year. So it is an annual process. You're going to be billed twice a year for each semester. If you're looking at borrowing, you would borrow a loan for the full year, same with payment plans. But you do want to figure out what is the cost. So usually colleges will provide that information with your financial aid offer, or there should be a link. There definitely is a link. It's somewhere on their college website, so you can find that information. So the annual cost, depending on the school may have outlined it all for you right in your financial aid offer. So tuition and fees, you can add those numbers up because usually they're set up on an award letter or an offer on the school's website as separate line items. So you have tuition and then fees. Now, fees could be anything from health fees to graduation fees when they're a senior in college, to COVID-19 preparation fees. There could be different types of fees. When you're comparing private colleges and public colleges, you'll typically find that you'll want to add the two numbers together. So it doesn't cost a lot less to run a public college, but some of that is, there's in-state tuition and breaks that you can get as a resident of Massachusetts, for example. So that's why the cost is going to look, a lot lower for a public college in your home state than a private college. But once you start adding in your financial aid, it might be, about the same, or maybe, even the private college, if they gave you a lot of aid, might be even cheaper. It really depends on the schools. So that's why you want to really do a good comparison of all your awards. So we're going to put in our tuition and fees. And again, I'm making this number up here. So I'm going to pretend it's a private college here in the Northeast for college A. And then college B for our tuition and fees. Again, I'm making up my numbers up here as well. We'll put in 20,000. So then room and board would be the next line item you'd put in here. So room and board would be the dormitory, and the board would be the meal plan. Now, if your son or daughter is going to be living off campus, colleges can provide you a budget for that they can use when determining your financial aid. So I'm not talking about if a student lives at home and commutes to school, but if they, go to, let's say, you live in Western Mass and they're going to school in Boston, a lot of the schools in Boston don't have dorms for every student because it is, small, and a lot of students like to live off campus in apartments. So it really depends on the school and your situation, but you can include off-campus housing here as well, just if you're doing your budget. So let's put in our room and board for each school. And you'll notice that from school to school, the room and board is not going to be a huge difference, even between publics and privates. Might be $1,000, $2,000 difference. A lot of that is going to depend on where the school is located. So if you're looking at schools in Manhattan, the room and board is going to be much more expensive than if you're looking at schools, let's say in Worcester, Mass, for example. So that is just something to keep in mind. You can also save money by choosing dorms that might be a little bit older, doing quads instead of singles. All of those pennies can add up, and you can save a little bit there. As well as meal plans. If the student's not going to be using the full meal plan, you might be able to get a lower cost meal plan next semester. So those are what we typically refer to as billed costs: tuition, fees, room and board. You also have unbilled costs, or incidentals, you could call them, that are part of the cost of attendance. So the cost of attendance is the overall cost that includes billed and unbilled expenses that are part of your budget, and your financial aid awards were determined based on that larger number. So books and supplies, usually colleges will put some sort of line item as an estimate that you can use when trying to run your numbers of what the student might anticipate spending in books. So books can be found online. You can buy used books. You can save money in that way versus buying brand new books. So you can actually reduce your bottom line cost by reducing your actual charged cost. but this is an expense that the student or, family will have to pay out of pocket. It is not going to be billed from the school. And supplies could depend on the student. That could be a laptop, it could be art supplies, if they're an art major. So I'm going to put in the same amount for each school because it shouldn't cost too much. There shouldn't be much of a difference in costs there. Now, transportation is another unbilled expense, and that is going to be determined based on where the school is and where you live. So the further away you are from home, the higher your transportation budget that would be included as part of this overall unbilled expense or discretionary expenses. So for example, transportation could be airfare, bus tickets, gas, things like that if the student is in state, for example. So I'm just going to put in some round numbers here. I'm going to keep them pretty close to the same. And health insurance, that is a line item that you will be billed for unless you waive this cost. So if the student is properly covered under mom or dad's health insurance plan, then you don't have to pay for the school's health insurance. So make sure that, number one, that you've waived this cost if the student doesn't need the health insurance, because here in Massachusetts, every student has to have insurance. And also, if the student is moving out of state, going to school out of state, make sure that your health insurance is going to follow them and cover them as well as if they're here in Massachusetts. And if not, then you may want to consider purchasing the school's health insurance plan. But I'm going to pretend that we're waiving the insurance at both of these schools. And then other costs could be, pizza money, money to get the dorm set up, things like that, additional expenses, maybe a laptop. So you can add those in here, and you can even put in, your own line item here. So let's say they need a new laptop. Oops. Okay. So these are our costs. So that's the first thing you'll want to do is add in the costs. I'm actually going to make this number a little bit bigger. Okay, so if I scroll down, you can see that our costs, the calculator automatically adds them up for us. So this private public college costs can, look a little different, but once we start adding in financial aid, hey, maybe the costs will be a little bit closer together. So then you'll want to put in your gift aid, and that's going to be any grants or scholarships the student put in from the college, as well as any federal or state aid that will be listed on the financial aid offer. Now, if you don't see any federal or state aid, such as a Mass grant or a federal Pell Grant, then it's most likely because your family didn't qualify based on the information that you've filled out on the FAFSA form. So some of these grants are need-based and go to, the students who have the highest financial need. However, families who have, higher income could be eligible for some of these grants and scholarships, particularly from the college or university, which could include merit or need-based aid. So I'm going to pretend that this student does have some of these grants, and maybe they have a state grant, maybe a Mass grant here. And I'm going to put this in here as well. And just to mix things up a little bit, for our state grant, I'm going to pretend that our public college student here also received the John and Abigail Adams Scholarship for their high scores in MCAS. So I'm going to increase this state grant and scholarship by adding in that award as well. Then we get into the grants and scholarships from the college. Now you may see this, it could be usually the merit-based aid that your student may have received. You'll find out about that in the admissions acceptance letter if you did receive that. And that should show up on the financial aid offer as well, including any other need-based aid that the student might have qualified for from the college. So this is the money that the college is giving out of their budgets. So I'm going to pretend that the student has financial need as well as received a merit scholarship from this private college. And we don't often see a lot of merit or need-based aid from the individual public colleges and universities. Their budgets tend to be a little bit lower, but their cost is also a lot lower. So it sometimes can even out a little bit. But let's just say that we did get a small scholarship from the school. Then you can also add in any outside or private scholarships the student received. So separate from the college or university. So, local awards from your town, from your high school. Check with the student's guidance counselor. Student probably has already filled out that application to be considered for all the local scholarships. You can also look at, we have some great websites here, MEFA Pathway, where you can do a national scholarship search if you want to look for additional opportunities, but also check with your employer, see if they have any funds available, scholarships for their employees and their kids, maybe any religious organizations, civic organizations, Knights of Columbus, athletic organizations, Pop Warner, if the student was a Boy Scout, Girl Scout, things like that, to check and see what might be available. Now, even though these scholarships are received from an outside source, you still need to report them to the financial aid office because it is considered financial aid. So let's pretend that we haven't heard from our local high school, but we do know we got one scholarship from mom and dad's employer that they can use at any college of their choice. So we'll put those in there. And if we scroll down to our calculator down at the bottom, you can see the annual gift aid per school is lined up and added up right there. So then we put in the federal direct student loans. So the maximum amount that a student can get as a freshman is going to be $5,500. Part of that could be subsidized, meaning the interest will not accrue while the student's in school. The rest of it, or for some families, the entire $5,500 could be unsubsidized, meaning interest will accrue while the student's in school. So I'm going to pretend that this family does qualify for the full subsidy of that loan. So they're going to get $3,500 in the subsidized portion. And then the remaining $2,000 is going to be the unsubsidized portion. Now, if the school also has additional institutional loans, some schools might put, and I'm going to scroll down just to some tips down here at the bottom. You can see these tips down here. You may see a plus loan on a financial aid offer. That's merely a suggestion from the financial aid office of a way to pay for the bill. It's not actual financial aid, and it is a credit-based loan that you do have to apply for as a parent. So just keep that in mind. If you see a plus loan on there, you can just cross it out and add that amount to your balance due, and then figure out, and we can help you with that, how to pay your balance due. And that could include a federal plus loan or even a loan through MEFA, which has even lower rates. So we'll just keep those blank for now. And then down here for other resources, this could include gifts from family, could include your college savings plan if you have a 529 plan. So let's just put our 529 here. And we're going to pretend that the family saved $20,000. So they have decided they're going to split that up $5,000 per year over the 4 years, but you can use your savings however you like. If you find you could just put it all towards the first year and not borrow it all, then that might be something that you want to do. So we're just going to pretend that we're just going to do $5,000 per year. So that's it. All you have to do to fill out all the different fields. Again, you can create a spreadsheet if that works better for you. And if we scroll down, I do really like even just looking at the different line items, school to school. just to see, you know, what is the cost, what is the room and board, where are the differences in the award letters. I feel like this format really helps you see the clear differences between the different schools and what they're awarding. So you can see down here, if we go to the bottom, you know, the annual costs are much different. But then when we look at the gift aid, there is big differences there too. So there is a difference in the net cost for each of these schools, the private college and the public college, of approximately $11,000, which is a lot smaller than the difference at the top line cost between $76,000 and $40,000. So that is a, you know, $36,000 difference. But once we start adding in the financial aid, we've narrowed that gap to about 11,000. So still a little bit more expensive for college A, but it is a good, you know, it is a good exercise to go through. So then when it comes time to pay the bill, that's where MEFA can help. And again, I mentioned our after the college acceptance webinars, where we can go through payment options with you. We also have some great loan comparison webinars coming up in June and July, where we'll literally get into the nuts and bolts of comparing loans and looking at disclosure statements and all of that good stuff. Now, one thing I didn't mention yet is work study. So you'll notice that I didn't add work study in here because work study could be on a financial aid award if you're family qualified. Again, that is a need-based program. And work study is money that the student will earn through a part-time job on campus. So they'll apply for that job and get a biweekly paycheck. And that's to help pay for some of those, I'm going to scroll back up here, some of those unbilled expenses like the books and supplies and, you know, their bus fare, their transportation expenses. So I am going to put in the work study here just so we don't forget that we have that award, but know that that money is not going to come right off the bill. So when I get my bill from the college, the only things that will come off is going to be the grants and scholarships from the federal government, state government, and the school, as well as any loans here. But you can put it in, I would recommend putting it in this line item, just so you're separating that award. So let's just pretend that each school gave the student $2,000 in work study. So we're going to increase this number to 7,000. That includes our savings. And that's it. So you can save this using this tool right here. You can just do a save. You can just do print here and save it as a PDF. So pretty easy to do. Or you can put this in the spreadsheet, whichever works for you. So that is our mini webinar on how to use our college cost calculator. I hope this information was helpful. Just going to scroll down here so you can read some of the fine print. And we have links to some, you know, the loan payment calculator here as well as, you know, additional guidance. So feel free to check that out. And I'm going to open it up for question and answer. So if anybody has a question, I'll leave the line open for another couple minutes. So please type your question in the Q&A. And for those who don't have questions and are going to hop off, I want to thank you all for coming tonight. I know this is a short little mini webinar, and that was the purpose. You could get just a little snapshot. When I do my full after the college acceptance webinar, I do go through this, but I do it a little bit quicker pace. So that's included there as well. So any question and answer. I don't see any questions coming in, but I'll just leave the line open for another minute just in case. If you have any questions, feel free to type those in the Q&A because everybody is on mute, so I won't be able to hear you if you're asking verbally. And hopefully, you found this helpful just to be able to line these awards up side by side. I feel like it's a good resource. And when we do our one-on-one counseling with families, we do plug their awards in this calculator to separate it out as well. Okay, folks, I'm not seeing any questions coming in, so I am going to end the webinar for everybody, but it was recorded, so I will send it all out to everybody who registered. And I want to thank you for coming tonight. I hope you all have a great evening, and definitely get in touch with MEFA if you need any help throughout this whole process. Have a great evening, everybody, and thank you for coming.